So I am here with Bruce Kratz, the VP of Development. Can you tell us a little bit about when and why you joined RunSignup?
So let's see. I've been at RunSignup for about 2.5 years now. I knew the founder Bob from 25 plus years ago, working together. So we followed each other's careers. I've been following RunSignup since the day he started it, and we've kept in touch. I actually lived here in Morristown, where the corporate office is, and Bob waited for me to move out of town and called me about a month later to say, "Hey, maybe we should talk about you working together again." So I guess he didn't want to see me every day, and so it probably works out for both of us.
So how'd you know him before all this?
So we worked together at a company called Bluestone, and I was a development manager there. I started my career as a developer, kind of got into, I'll say, working for companies where they needed something happened where they needed to scale up engineering, and that kind of became a specialty that I loved. And so Bluestone was on a really great growth path. I was a development manager there, and we had a great run there at Bluestone, and that's where I met Bob.
So what are some of your responsibilities here at RunSignup?
So we have two development teams here. One is our event day team. They primarily work on the apps that are used the day of event, like check-in and scoring and RaceJoy, run by a really talented guy down there, James Harris. I run our other team called the platform team, and the platform development team basically takes care of all of the features that you would see on runsignup.com when you log in, or TicketSignup or GiveSignup. And so it's a team of about 25 to 30 developers. My main role here is making sure that those developers have as much grease in the system to spend as much time doing what they're great at, which is developing world-class software. So whatever gets in their way is what I feel my job is. So primarily dealing with all of our vendors. I'm working with our product leaders, Alice and Bob primarily, on the two different solutions, RunSignup and TicketSignup, to kind of strategize on who's the best person to take on each task. I'm working with the developers on their careers and their aspirations and how those mesh with the companies. And then there's some kind of, I guess, supporting things that need to get done. PCI is a big deal here, in general security. And we have a lot of engineers that concentrate on security and infrastructure, making sure our site is 100% operational all the time. But as far as the kind of compliance aspects of that, I typically try to take as much of that off their plate as I can. So again, they can spend time doing what they're great at. I feel like my main role is freeing time from them on tasks that don't have to do with building the product.
Now you mentioned helping them out with their careers here.
Yeah.
Could you go into more detail about that?
Yeah, so I think we're lucky to have a really great development staff here. They've all been pretty much handpicked. Many of them, I think we knew from other walks of life, may have worked with them in the past, and others through our university program, which we have a good university program. I'll call it the feeder league, if you will. In the corporate headquarters, it's primarily associated with Rowan, although we have interns from all different schools. So a couple things I think are unique, and I've started university internship programs at a lot of different companies. I think what's unique here is, first of all, we put them through the same interview rigor that we would a developer. Now, we realize they don't know as much as an experienced programmer, but we're really looking for how do they learn, how do they solve problems, and do they fit into our culture, which is extremely important to us. Once they get in here, they basically go through the same paces as a new developer, as far as their training, as far as learning how we work here, and they start to get real tasks. And so by the time the internship's done at the end of the summer, there's a pretty good chance that they've created a bunch of different features that customers asked for, and a number of those we publish on our blog. As many of our customers know, we publish a lot on our blog, and so it's kind of cool. They leave here with a project that they can point to that they completed while they were here, and so good for us, good for their resume, and of course, if they're really good, we like to offer them a job. which we actually got a chance to do yesterday, which was kind of cool.
Oh, nice.
A young man named Dewey has been interning here, and yesterday we had the entire development team in for an on-site meeting, which we held off-site. So we made an offer to Dewey, and we announced it at that meeting. And I know I'm excited about it. He's a really smart engineer, a lot of potential, and so that was cool. We had a lot of fun with that last night. He's a little bit of a character too. Once we were done the whole paperwork and offer and all that, his main goal was to make sure that we played a prank on Bob. And so, he had an elaborate scheme where he's going to tell Bob, maybe next time I'm not interested. And he had me calling Bob and saying similar stuff. And it's pretty funny. And so, we're a pretty small company, but I think a lot of the processes we've evolved to provide developers a career path that they would expect at a larger company. So, hey, what are the different levels here? And how do I get to the next level? And can you help me with getting exposure or training in that area? Maybe we'll connect them with someone outside of the company that could be a mentor or someone that can, has a similar career. So, all that stuff is part of building a great career, which makes you a better engineer, which obviously benefits the company and our customers. So it all kind of revolves around. So it's a constant discussion with each of the developers on what do they want to learn, and then trying to mesh that with what does the company need them to work on. And usually we get a pretty good match.
Now, did you want to talk more about PCI?
Let's see, PCI. So PCI, for those who don't know, it's actually a standard. It's called PCI DSS. So it stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. There's a lot of data security standards in the industry. SOC is another one, quite a few. We follow PCI, which is all about protecting credit card data. We do it a little bit differently here. So the requirements of PCI was put in place by all the big card brands, MasterCard, Visa, so forth, a while back, basically because a lot of credit card security breaches were occurring and they needed to protect that. And so it's a bunch of standards that protects that data. For us and, for customers that are using our site, the standard really only applies to the portion where we're dealing with sensitive card data, which is usually the payment page. And if you're able to segregate that part of your system from the rest of your system, then you really only have to apply these rules to that part. And that's what a lot of companies do. Early on, the decision was made here that we would apply PCI standards and that same process to the entire site because we care about all the data. And we care about the security of the system. And so I think that's made this a very mature organization from the point of view of security and infrastructure, availability, and that sort of thing. But essentially, some of the ingredients of PCI, when we're talking about protecting that data, it's everything from ensuring that the developers are getting a training on what is a secure design, how to look for known patterns of exploit. So, really getting in at the design stage and the coding stage. And then there's a number of safeguards. Security is always a layered approach, right? So that you have many layers to get to before you get to the gold, which we're trying to protect, which is the data in most cases. And so it's everything from intrusion detection. We've built a big library of fraud rules having to do with credit card fraud. So a good example of that would be we might recognize a pattern, and now our system recognizes it, that someone's putting in 5-cent donations, 5 cents, 3 cents, 25 cents, all from the same originating IP address or computer. That tells us it's probably someone that bought a list of credit cards off the dark web and is now testing them to try to find the ones that they're going to go buy the big screen TV with. So over the years, we've built up a lot of patterns that we can recognize automatically, and then we can just shut that down. So it's an arms race. We come up with, a countermeasure, and there's a new one every day that we need to follow. But it's made us a really secure and available system, and we're pretty proud of that.
I guess I never thought of it as people buying a list of credit card numbers. I knew you guys were testing for that. I just assumed it was like someone stole a credit card and then they're testing that, which
Yeah.
seemed tedious.
I'm
But
sure that happens
yeah.
as well, but typically we see them in batches
Okay.
for that particular use case, right? And all this stuff is common. Every site on the internet is dealing with this. We're attacked every single day. Every site is attacked every day, mostly by automated bots, and our standard defenses catch that stuff. It's the more sophisticated ones that we're interested in tracking, and we have a number of members of the development team here that look at logs and alerts every single day, 24/7, to make sure that all the data going in the system is secure, and that someone isn't trying to, just for fun, sometimes take a site down.
So can you tell us about Monday tasks?
Yeah, Monday tasks is a pretty unique to RunSignup term, I'll say. So the terminology predates me, but it came from how we organize our week. So the way we organize our week, we try to minimize a lot of meetings, which we all hate, I think. Unnecessary meetings for sure. And Monday's our big communication day. So Monday, first thing that happens on Monday is a bunch of the leaders meet with Bob, and we go through every single issue that was logged in our system the past week. So this is any customer enhancement request, any bug, any new feature that we get from our support team or from our salespeople. We go through them all, we triage them, and we kind of rate them. This is good, we want to do this, we've heard this before, we want to do this doesn't make sense, or it's just for one customer, we won't do that. And we prioritize them. So that's the first part of the morning. Then around 11 o'clock, we get together with the entire development team, platform development team. And if you ever heard of the term, or if anyone's out there has heard of the term of a daily stand-up, it's kind of like a daily stand-up, but we only do it once a week. Each developer goes through, this is what I accomplished last week, this is what I'm going to accomplish this week, and these are the things that are standing in my way, or things we have to talk about. That usually moves into split-off meetings later in the day to work things out or to get better clarification on requirements. So Monday's a pretty broken up day with all these communications that happen. So the idea of Monday tasks are they're small tasks that probably can be knocked out in anywhere from 10 minutes to maybe a few hours. And so on Mondays, the developers just pick from a list of Monday tasks to fill in the gap time between all these communications. The great thing about it is if you've ever kind of had a nit that you didn't like about software and you sent it into the company and you never hear anything about it, we like to try to take those. A lot of them are simple things. They're Monday tasks. And so we probably knock out about 25 to 30 of those a month that we can go back to customers and say, hey, that little annoying thing, we took care of it. And actually, not knowing we were having this meeting, I got an email from a partner. I wanted to read it to you. This
cool.
quote here, because it has to do with Monday tasks. This was from Ryan Morris, who's one of our partners. He runs Delmo Pro, which is a pretty big organization in the region here. And I asked him to come and speak at our development meeting yesterday as a guest speaker. So anyhow, we were kind of going back and forth, thanking each other for that. And he said, there are so many things, a lot of them little, that you work to build out that has a massive impact on customers. It's the little details that matter, and that's the part that other vendors usually don't get. So I was really happy to get this email because, as someone who's appreciating these little things that we're doing, that we fit in, primarily on Mondays, although Monday tasks can be done any time in the year. But so unique to RunSignup kind of term, and I think pretty cool because it gets us to respond to customers, which ultimately is what we love doing.
Yeah, Justice was talking about him too, about the questions. I guess he had the
Justice
thing
got
up on the board,
yeah,
and he
Justice,
had one crossed out.
That was cool because Justice worked hard on that, and the timing was perfect. That
Yeah.
it was one of Ryan's asks, and Justice had literally got it done the week that before he got here. So coming in the door, we got something done for him.
I like also a lot of the developers were saying that the Monday tasks are nice because it's like with their big project, it's kind of like a little win
Yes.
on their way.
Yeah, I mean, Doing development work is, it's mentally taxing. It's really a creative process, and I think that's one thing that RunSignup really gets is because Bob is a technologist, he understands the process of developing software. It's not like pumping out widgets in a factory. Sometimes you just can't, you're at a mental block and you can't get through the problem you're trying to solve. One of the worst things you can do is keep beating your head against the wall trying to solve that thing. It just wastes time, and it results in forcing something that winds up being a bad solution. So it's good to put it down, pick up something easy, get a win. That felt good. I just got something really quick done that a customer cares about. And then the next day you get into the task and you're like, oh, now I get it. Or you got to talk to someone and work it out. But Monday tasks are good to break up the monotony. And I think it goes to the work kind of flow here, goes to the culture, the engineering culture of the company, which is, I think, one of the healthiest that I've ever experienced and have been a part of.
So what is the greatest strength that the engineering team has?
It's kind of a hard question to pick just one strength. I think the strength comes down to people, but it's a certain kind of person, and it's a certain kind of engineer that fits into the culture that we hold so dear here. We do pick, I think, the best engineers, as every company tries to. So we're pretty picky about who comes on the team. But the engineers that we choose, they work together. It's all about the team, not about the individual. I've never been in an organization that I've started and didn't have to find someone in the organization that thought they were better than everyone else and either needs a serious discussion with or needs to be let go. And I told Bob, I'm sure the same thing is going to happen when I join RunSignup, but I'm still looking for that person. They're not here.
Let's hope you don't find them.
Yeah. Yes, no, they're definitely not here.
That's actually been the most common answer is just no egos.
Yeah. And, there's, and I can go on and on, obviously, about the engineering team. I love this team. We do a phenomenal job, I believe, or they do. I'm just a supporting role in this whole thing is the way I look at it. The other big part of it is the culture from the executive team, or from the company as a whole. It's very appreciative. It's very understanding of what it takes to produce great software versus, hey, it's the end of the quarter and we need this feature done and we don't really care what quality it is. We regularly rewrite large parts of the system that are old and need a refresh, or large parts of the system that we may have just completed and we realize that, hey, this is hard to use. We can make this better, and we'll go and spend money and time and effort making something better that we've already released. It's very hard to do in a lot of companies where the target is on give me more features in the shortest amount of time as cheap as possible. Sure, we want to be efficient with our time and our money. It's limited. There's way more things to do than we can do. But we also don't want to release poor software. There's lots of examples of that in our industry and in the software world in general. And so I really appreciate not having to make the argument that I've made in many other places that, hey, this is going to take 2 weeks longer than we expected, and here's why. It's not a long discussion. It's more of a visibility discussion versus whoa, what happened? We expected this done and 5 people are waiting for it. And well, they'll have to wait because we want to make it better. Mm-hmm. And that's really a big part of what's driving the culture. And what allows this great group of people that don't have egos and really want to get better and help each other out, what lets them be creative.
So do you want to talk about code reviews?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, it's been great having you. Thank you.
Code reviews is a part of our process that we spend a lot of time talking about because in one way, it's a little bit of I'll say an annoyance to a lot of developers because, hey, I just got this done. Now I got to hand it over to someone else and they're going to tell me all the ways I could have done it. And there's always 3, 4, 10 different ways to do something. But we've all kind of and so we want them to go faster because it is a part of the process. First of all, it's required by PCI. We all believe we need it anyhow, so we probably would have done it anyhow. But our code reviews here are pretty rigorous. It's not a rubber stamp, and they're in depth. And I've gotten the same reaction from every new developer that started here, whether they've been in the industry for 20 years or it's their first job. It's like, wow, that code review was rough. But it produces a really great result from a point of view of security, availability of the system, and just the care of what goes into a good user experience. So code reviews is kind of a necessary evil, if you will, but it's really done well here. It's something that we all recognize isn't our favorite part of the process, but we all know it makes us probably better than most other companies because of the rigor we put into it. So we continue to talk. So we had a development offsite, as I mentioned. We talked about code reviews, how to make them more streamlined, more checklists, some automation around how they get routed, and we'll continue to improve upon them. But they're always going to be around, and it'll always be a good discussion point here as to how to make them better.
Now, someone was talking about different levels of code reviews.
Yeah, so that was one of the changes we made, was to create a 3-tier system so that and it has to do with risk of the change. So a low risk change that might be as simple as you change the spelling of some terminology on the screen. That can go through a more streamlined process with less experienced code reviewers versus a high risk item where we want our best people to look at it, our most experienced people to look at it. And it might go through, changes that might last a week or two, where they're going back and forth discussing, hey, what's the best way to do this? And a lot of learning comes out of code reviews as well. It's not all about telling someone how to improve their code. Both the reviewer and the person submitting learn from the discussion. So that's good. And, that makes us all better. A discussion might occur where, what you developed works, but when the Broad Street run opens and everyone presses submit at the same time, this may not scale. Oh, that's a good point. Let's do it in a different way. So that's the really good stuff that comes out of code reviews, and then that knowledge is passed on to other people because we are always swapping up who's involved in those reviews.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking today.
Always my pleasure. Thanks for doing it. Great job.
I learned
always.
something there.
That's good. Yeah, I hope to do a couple more. We can pick some other. I just created a diagram of our process, and I think maybe we'll go through that one day. I think that would be a good session.